This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the independent lead director for BRVO Mining, Dr. Nicole Adshead-Bell. Nikki, how are you today?
I'm very well, Gerardo. How are you?
I am well. The last time you and I spoke, I was very clear about how biased I am with Bravo. I'm a shareholder. I'm a very happy shareholder, and I get happier with every news release. You just announced that the massive sulfide game changing, which is what I'm calling it, discovery, also returned some high grade PGMs along with the other metals, right? We knew about the nickel, we knew about the copper. This is a new style of mineralization than we've seen at the Luanga project. Can you speak to that in a bit? And then I'm going to ask you about the drill program and how that's coming along.
Sure. Yes, it was a game changer. And we've been having some meetings in Toronto this week, and everyone's been saying, well, how did the discovery occur? And it was simply infill drilling between two holes that were 200 meters apart. And so not necessarily a lot of geological wizardry, but as our president, Simon Mottram, says, is that we knew that these were higher grade zones, and we are infilling the very widely spaced drilling program that was completed by Vale back in the early 2000s. And we're very fortunate enough that no one had discovered this before, because I don't think we would have the asset today if they had. And so, as you said, very different style of mineralization, spectacular intersection, 11 meters of 2.04% nickel and 1.3% copper. And then we released the PGMs. And people might be wondering why we released the PGMs separately. And the reason is assaying for PGMs takes a lot longer, particularly for rhodium, than assaying for nickel and copper. And so that's why there was a bit of a gap. And we didn't really know, there's not necessarily a correlation between high copper, and we've not seen copper mineralization before in any material way at Luanga, but we didn't really know what to expect. And so to hit 4.24 grams per ton of combined palladium, and most of it's palladium, platinum, rhodium, and gold, was a very, very nice surprise to say the least. And in our press release yesterday, we also stated that we've now completed 4 step-out holes, so 50 metres to the north of that drill hole 47 and 50 metres to the south, so 2 holes in each line, and that we've hit visuals of semi-massive sulfides. And so those holes are now in the lab awaiting processing. So everything is looking pretty favourable. And I must say too, I'm biased, obviously, as both lead director, but also a sizable and very happy shareholder. In fact, we keep getting, as directors, keep getting restricted, obviously, because we've got a pretty continuous stream of news flow. And so myself and our CEO, Luis Azevedo, have stepped into the market a number of times when we can this year. So we are still feeling very, very positive about things.
So just to be clear, the 2 diamond drill holes that were located 50 meters north and south have also hit visual massive sulfide mineralization. Is that correct?
Semi-massive. So there's 4 step-out holes. So there's 2 to the 50 meters to the north, and then 2 50 meters to the south. And they have intersected varying amounts of semi-massive sulfides.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I have to ask, Nikki, how are you vectoring in, and how do you vector in on a target like this? You have an 8.1 kilometer mineralized strike. I can't believe it's all luck on the infill holes here, 200 meters from the historic holes. How do you vector into this kind of target, and then how do you develop it now that clearly you're onto something that I think is pretty special?
Yeah, so the initial strategy is to simply confirm and demonstrate the historic Vale resource, which was 142 million tonnes at 1.24 grams combined PGMs, excluding rhodium. So that's very important. We are assaying for rhodium continuously. We understood as we were going through the Vale data that they did not always assay for rhodium, hence rhodium was not included in the resource estimate. And just as a reminder, lots of people don't know that much about rhodium, but it's an incredibly high value commodity. It's currently trading around $13,500 per ounce. So small amounts of rhodium can have a very material impact. So what we were doing is infilling. We thought there was potential for massive sulfide zones and probably hit it a lot earlier than what we thought. But how you find massive sulfide, it's dense and it has a strong EM response. So we are drilling around this initial discovery, so those 2 lines 50 metres to the north and south. Then we're moving the drill rigs array, and we have started in the next week. We've got the EM team on site, and we're doing detailed EM survey across the northern part of the project and downhole EM on those 5 holes that we have drilled to date. And so what EM does is that it will show where there's a sulfide body. So for example, that zone we hit, if you were to run an EM line over that, that would show up very, very strongly on EM. So EM's a great tool to use from a geophysical perspective to help vector in on these very dense zones that can have a very strong EM response. And you can't have drill rigs in the vicinity because obviously drill rigs, there's a bit of metal associated with drill rigs that could interfere with the signal. And so we're also trying to be strategic. The rainy season starts in this part of Brazil in December. And so access becomes a little bit more challenging, just generally speaking, because there's a bit more water around. And the north is a bit more rugged. So we're hitting the north part of that 8.1 kilometres, very hard. We've got all the drill rigs in this area. Those are getting moved away, and then the EM project starts. And then the assessment of that the EM surveys will then help us vector in terms of how to focus future drilling to understand where these massive sulfide zones are and how big that could potentially be.
6 rigs on site, is that correct?
6 rigs on site, yes. And we had a record week last week. I think we hit almost 1,000 meters drilled in a week. So the drilling program is going very, very well. In fact, to date, we've drilled 91 holes. We've completed almost 2/3 of the planned initial phase 1 drill program. We've got 42 holes in the lab that we have drilled that are awaiting assay results. And we've got 8 of the Vale historic holes. They're also in the lab. So they've gone through our processing. You obviously, you drill a hole, you have to look at the core, you log the core, you take all the information, and then you prepare it to be assayed. So there's some time lags. So we expect to have fairly continuous news flow over the coming months. There's a lot of backed up drilling that we're awaiting results on.
A lot to look forward to. I look at peer comps all the time. There are peer comps with assets that I believe are inferior to Luanga with much higher market cap. So I'm looking forward to the market re-rating. Nikki, thank you for your time. Anything to add to that?
No, well, thank you very much for your time as well. Very much appreciated. And we look forward to the continued news coming out of Luanga. And in fact, I should be on site later in November. So I'll have a more detailed update post a site visit in late November.
Looking forward to the update. Thanks again, Nikki.
Thanks a lot, Gerardo.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.